right, cool. We are back with episode number 28 of Happy Hour with Heather and guest. As always, I'm joined with Heather. I'm joined by Heather, and I'm that other dude. And today, Heather is wearing her King Buffalo tee,
Yeah.
and I'm rocking our original Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid style design. And we are ready to go. We're going to talk today about a couple of groups. The first is going to be Sleepwulf, and they are from Kristianstad, Sweden. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And after that, we're going to talk about, and I think it's pronounced Kajgun, maybe, from Budapest, Hungary. And we're going to end by talking about a group called Slomosa from Bergen, Norway. So we're going all around the world as we usually do.
Yeah, that's the great thing about music is there's great music all over the world.
It is indeed universal. It's what brings us all together.
Yeah.
So kicking things off from Kristianstad, Sweden, we're going to start out with Sleepwulf's self-titled album. And the first track, so typically, again, for those of you who don't know how it works, when it's my turn to pick the band, Heather will pick the tracks we listen to and vice versa. So since I suggested Sleepwulf, Heather picked the tracks so we're going to kick things off with Wizard Slayer off of Sleepwulf's self-titled album.
Yes, Wizard Slayer. This has a very traditional Doom sound. If you love the pioneers of Doom, you'll absolutely love this. Very clear and straightforward vocals that are stellar. They don't overpower the music, and the inflections are just so good. I love the lyrics. They're very descriptive. They tell a story. This would be great music to play outside around a fire, as they say in the song, to keep the wolves away.
Yeah, this is very much this. In fact, the music they make is very reminiscent of like Witchfinder General or Pentagram, some of the early doom metal stalwarts, so to say. And I would, if I were trying to introduce somebody to what classic doom metal was, this might be a textbook answer. You know, this is like a textbook doom riff, great soaring vocals, and it all, like Heather mentioned, doesn't overpower anything, but a really cool sort of contemporary throwback to a 70s, early 80s era type feel to the music. And then after that, we listened to Standing Stones.
Yeah, and there are some amazing doom bands coming out of Sweden, and this being one of them. It seems like Sweden has that retro doom sound down. These songs are like poetry. The guitar is very distinct. It has a very distinct tone. What I really like is that the music is not flashy. There's some great songwriting and playing, and that's what shines through.
Yeah, this song was I felt less doomy, more of like a progressive 70s hard rock. It reminded me of the vocalist reminded me a lot of Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull. And when I went on YouTube, I saw that suspicion had been confirmed by other people. They said it was I began to think of it as retro Tull instead of Jethro Tull, because I thought that was I was proud of myself for that one. But yeah, the music, again, they're not similar to Jethro Tull. That's just the sound of the vocalist reminded me of that. But the music they're playing is sort of more reminiscent of like a Sir Lord Baltimore or Deep Purple, kind of that hard rock era, where it's sort of bordering on doom, but it hasn't quite. I mean, Wizard Slayer certainly made the leap into doom. This one is more sort of like psychedelic, spacey 70s hard rock. Um, in the words of Spot, who used to work at SST Records with the band Black Flag, when he was describing the Minutemen, he said they stripped it down to the essence of the tune. And I felt like Sleepwulf has really sort of stripped it down to the essence of what makes the tune work. And you sort of pointed that out, nothing flashy. So just some excellent playing, though. So after that, we had God of Gaps.
Yeah, the guitar is so beautifully played. It's a short song, but I wanted to include it because it's just so beautiful. It has a desert vibe to it, and I just thought it really stood out.
Yeah, for some reason, it reminded me of like kind of like when Neil Young would do like a finger picking type song. Like I felt like that it was sort of like of that kind of era, like a Neil Young finger or Stephen Stills finger picking, like the song 4 and 20 by Crosby, Stills and Nash. But yeah, I'm really glad that you included it because it added a nice variety. Um, and then we ended with One Eyed Jailer.
This song has a bit of a bluesy feel, and the guitar is telling part of the story. There's a sadness about it, about being trapped with no hope of an escape. I put the full album on our YouTube playlist. I just think it's a really brilliant record.
Yeah, I think so when I was still doing A Fistful of Faithful, usually solo after I had returned back to the United States, and Martin was still in Hong Kong, we were able to do like an anniversary episode where we kind of reconnected and did a one-off. And I remember Sleepwulf was one of the bands we listened to because I felt like they'd be right in his wheelhouse. Since he's not a fan of most, heavy metal music, I thought this would be a great way to bridge the gap. And he did like Sleepwulf. By the way, I didn't mention this before, but Sleepwulf is spelled WULF. So not that you're going to be looking for a WOLF, but just in case, it is a different spelling. And yeah, One Eyed Jailer, I said a Dynamite intro, probably my favorite of the tracks on the self-titled album. A unique sort of progressive, as you had put, I wrote bluesy dirge. It reminded me of like a What Would You Do with a Drunken Sailor type bluesy kind of dirge sound, very melancholy, but an excellent way to round out a stellar self-titled album.
Yeah.
And then that leads to their second album we listened to, which was released this year, I believe, called Sunbeams Curl. So kicking things off with Green Man Dead.
Yeah. Once you know the lyrics to this song, it's super fun to sing along to. Green man dead, hatchet to his head. Scare the shit out of your neighbors by singing this at the top of your lungs. Green man dead, paint the forest red. This song has a much deeper meaning of forests being, the destruction of forests because of climate change. These songs, when you dive deep more into these songs, there is a deeper meaning. But but I mean, you can't go wrong with those lyrics. Those are awesome.
No, yeah, again, a lot of the times when we listen to music, Heather will do a deep dive on the lyrics. I don't spend as much time analyzing lyrics, so I always appreciate when she does. For this one, for Green Man Dead, I just wrote, this was more of a Doom heavy, like they went back to Doom. And I just wrote, Jethro lives with progressive chops. So it really hammered home the kind of Jethro Tull type feel to it, with a lot of the progressive elements. And of course, the singer's voice is stellar. So a great way to kick things off with their sophomore album that we listened to, Sunbeams Curl. And then next up was Sex Magic Manifestation.
Yeah. I mean, they have great song titles, on both albums, just really, really great song titles. Um, I think the song is about manifesting what you desire, like using your will to create what you want. The album, the
Like, not to interrupt you, but like it says on the bottom of our shirt, if you will it, it is no dream.
that's true. That's true, and both you and I can attest to that. Definitely. If you believe it, you can achieve it, right? How many more can we do?
So many.
um, the album art has hidden optics and codes on it. So if you actually own this record and you can hold it in your hand, that would just be so beneficial. I love looking at album art, and I think that started with Iron Maiden records, looking for all the hidden stuff in the Iron Maiden records. And that has just stayed with me all these years. There's always something to find.
Yeah, for this one, I wrote just the word title with a bunch of exclamation marks because again, Sex Magic Manifestation is one of the greatest titles I've ever heard. Um, and again, I felt like they went less in the doom direction and more in the progressive direction of hard rock, uh, more reminiscent of like Sir Lord Baltimore, who's another favorite of mine from the early sort of hard rock and 70s. But yeah, and then they continued with great titles. The next one is Stoned Ape.
Yeah, this song I really love this song. It has a richer, warmer sound. I think it might be the addition of the organ, which I'm a huge fan of because my dad plays the organ. So I'm like an advocate for more keys in metal music. This is definitely my favorite song on the record. The singing is so clear, and then the guitar and the organ together, it's just magical.
Yeah, I think this is probably the single they released from the album because I know that you can easily find it on YouTube. And yeah, I loved the sort of organ 70s progressive rock feel to it. It very much reminded me of Deep Purple. Um, and this time I did notice, or I did at least take time to listen to the lyrics. Stoned Ape is your family, walk on 2 feet. Um, and it actually reminded me of there's a scene in the movie Half Baked. I'm not sure if you've seen Half Baked with Dave Chappelle.
Yes, I have.
So Harlan Williams is in prison, and he's being bothered by some of the prisoners. And at one point, they're calling him Fish, and he's going to be assaulted at one point. So he's looking into a mirror, trying to give himself the confidence. And at one point, he says, "You walk upright on 2 legs, Homo erectus." And it's one of those throwaway jokes that's not funny at all to like most people. But one of my friends and I would always say that to each other: "You walk upright on 2 legs." So when I heard that Stone Dave family, you walk upright on 2 feet, I was like, oh, that's something that only I will make that same. I will be the only person to think
Of that movie.
of that movie. Yes, and
Yeah.
with regard to those lyrics.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we close things out with this album with Toad Liquor Mushroom Picker. So another phenomenal title.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this album, I think it made #2 on the Doom charts, which is very impressive. That means it got a lot of votes. I know you're always saying you're looking for contemporary bands that kind of, fill the shoes of bands that aren't making music anymore. And I really think this one is what you would definitely be looking for. Like, this would be the candidate right here. This band definitely does that. Just great throwback You know, if you're missing some of that throwback proto doom, that this definitely fits the bill.
Yeah, if you're closing out with Toad Liquor Mushroom Picker, I just wrote excellent combo of progressive doom. Um, there wasn't much more to say after listening to these two albums, other than if you're a fan of this type of music from any of the heavyweights that I had mentioned before, like Deep Purple or Jethro Tull or Sir Lord Baltimore or any of those really sort of hard rocking metal 70s who laid the groundwork, like Cream, for example, you're gonna love this band. And they just put out an album this year, Sunbeams Curl. So I think they're just getting started. The sound you're hearing is me jumping on the bandwagon. So definitely, I would give 2 thumbs up for both Sleepwulf albums. Check it out. Um, if you're also looking to ease somewhat, I was thinking about this. There's music, certainly metal, that's a little inaccessible to your common listener. It takes a little while to sort of warm up to it. This is not that. So if you're looking to sort of ease someone in, like what I would do with Martin, that's why this was the perfect band for Martin to listen to, because it was like a great gateway band. They're accessible to everyone. I
Yeah.
almost said gateway drug, but they're a great gateway band. They're really accessible for everyone, making great tunes. So check them out, Sleepwulf. And that brings us to, and I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Kajgu with an umlaut N. So I want to say Kajgun, Kajgun. I don't know. I apologize for not. I should have done like Pronounceify on Google or something. But they're going to be difficult, not difficult to describe, but this is what on Bandcamp it reads that they're a psychedelic jazz metal band playing totally improvised music with a goal to reformulate fusion jazz via the elements of metal and world music, putting an emphasis on beauty and coherence. So, yeah, and I will probably mispronounce the name of their album that I listened to. Which do you recall what album you listened to? Was it the latest one?
Yeah. Daogoad.
Yeah, again, you'll have to excuse us. Our pronunciation's probably not spot on. But what did you think of the band?
Well, this was a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be, which was really a pleasant surprise. It has an underlying metal bass with jazz over the top, if that makes sense. It's completely instrumental, and the fact that it's improvised just completely blows my mind, because it's really cohesive. Those songs have structure. They aren't all over the place. Some really cool wind instruments like the saxophone. There's also plenty of guitar and drums for metal fans. I love getting these band submissions because I don't think this is a band that I would have found on my own. So I'm really glad that it was submitted to us. I just think it's so wonderful.
Yeah, I think, there are a lot of misconceptions that people have. I think when they hear improvisational, um, sometimes they sort of shy away from it because they're like, well, I don't want to just watch people indulging themselves in making stuff up as they go, because it's not going to be cohesive. Um, and also, I think some people probably think, well, jazz and metal, that's not really a combination. That's not like peanut butter and jelly. Uh, One of the great things that I found that was written about this band was from a place called the Chronic Knot Collective. And they wrote, if you're looking for a way to visit a place that nobody's ever heard before, you can definitely find it here. And another one I found from Tobias Reaper was doomy instrumental jazz metal that melts your mind. So it's really cool. A combination I hadn't really expected. As you had said, it's a little heavier than I had anticipated, but it works really well. They combine all the great elements of jazz, of metal. And if you think about it, progressive metal is very much from the jazz improvisational school. I have said before in the past that a lot of sort of stoner metal or doom metal or will be repetitive. Like you'll find the one riff and then repeat that, and you'll get lost in the sort of repetition. It almost becomes like enchantment. But with
Yeah.
progressive music, you're going outward in directions you may not. You sort of know the scope of where you're headed. You just don't know exactly where you're going. And I think it takes a really, really good musician to be able to make music well within that framework.
Yeah. And I think some of our friends that are in like the black metal category actually have backgrounds in jazz, which I think is really, really interesting. And I do think that you have to be an incredible musician to go from playing jazz, and using, what you've learned in jazz and that background, and then shaping it into metal music. I think that's just incredible.
Yeah, I would say also I like that it's instrumental, that you can have it on in the background while you're doing something else. Like for me, if I'm writing, I will definitely throw on Kajgun. I'll just say Kajgun, and hopefully I'm not stepping on too many toes. But I will definitely have that on in the background as I'm writing. It's a great, it's certainly great mood music. Um, and there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in there that you don't really anticipate. So I would definitely recommend picking up any album from them, especially their latest one.
Yeah.
And then the last band. So I think last year I was doing a YouTube deep dive, and I found Slomosa's album, and I was like, oh wow, this is really awesome stuff. I'm just going to listen to this. And I think I listened to it for like 3 days straight. That was the only album I listened to. And I just remember thinking, we need to shine a spotlight on this one album. I'm hoping that they're going to make more, but there were a lot of elements in it that I really thought like we need more people to know about this band. Um, so yeah, they're from Bergen, Norway. I, it's like some space. Well, why don't you give your 2 cents?
Well, I saw the first song was named Horses, and I'm like, well, this album rules. It's a great stoner rock album, a lot of fun to listen to. The music reminded me of how much music has helped me. It's been a really big part of myself personally, my healing process. Along with doing this show with you, because we get to listen to a lot of different music, which is really awesome. So music has been a big part of that. I've been feeling so much better and making improvements, and I definitely don't want to go back to feeling bad. So it's just like with music, let's just keep moving forward, the best that we can. And hopefully we can be in a position to help other people do that too. And that's just when I listen to this album, I don't know why. I don't know why, but like when I listen to it, that's just everything that I felt.
Yeah, it's great sort of psychedelic space rock, stoner rock. And again, another one of those contemporary bands that can take the mantle of a band that's not making as much music anymore. I think Horses was what the first track that I heard too, and that's sort of what hooked me. But the test that I always have with how good an album is am I just going to listen to one track over and over again, or am I going to allow the whole album to sort of cycle through? And this one, I found myself listening to the entire album. I was like, all right, well, that's a banger. It passes the test. So I definitely think if you haven't heard Slomosa or Kajgun or Sleepwulf, hit pause. It's a little late, but hit pause. Check them out on our playlist. Um, there are definitely three bands that are vastly different from each other, but all making great music. And as Heather had mentioned, that's sort of the universal appeal of what we're doing is we're all part of this group that appreciates a certain type of music that's really, it's really great in so many ways. It brings us all together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also wrote down the phrase "electric dynamite," which I think I may have heard from Jack Black. I think he may have described music as electric dynamite for something, for Tenacious D, perhaps. So there we go. We listened to Sleepwulf, Kajgun. I will get it right one day, not today, but one day, and Slomosa. And yeah, this has been episode 28. So 28 episodes. We've really put in the time.
Yeah, time flies.
So is that one of the dogs?
Yeah.
Cool.
So they like to sit. They like at the terriers. I have 2 rat terriers, and they love to sit on the back of the couch and look out the window and bark at things.
Of course, who doesn't? So yeah, well, we've got another. We've got at least through 50 episodes planned. But if you're a band out there who'd like to have your music reviewed, send it our way. We have a website that has sorry, I'm getting the upgrade button. We have a website that has the feature where you can submit music to be reviewed. We also have merch for sale and a database full of our old episodes. So
yeah,
check it out. Happy Hour with Heather and guest. And
yeah.
As always, thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Andrew.
And we will be back next week.
Yes, that sounds good.